I personally believe motivation is about personal power. Because if a child doesn't feel they are empowered, if they don't feel that they can, if they don't feel that they're going to be successful, they might not act or be motivated. And it's a power. It's a power. So when you have students who don't feel that they may be able to be successful, and maybe hopefully this is not anybody's child in here, but this is good to understand this piece. They don't feel, maybe they have a learning disability like my son. That's why my son, I believe, was successful, because I never bought into the, oh, you've got a disability, so therefore you can't. I said, oh, you learn differently. Never called it a disability. You learn differently, so therefore we're going to help you figure out how you learn and use those tools to get the best out of your life. And when kids don't have that message, then they begin to feel like failure at sometimes by kindergarten, they're feeling that way. And sadly, with the way our educational system is going with all the testing and they see their F's and their failures right off, it can be really discouraging, right, starting in kindergarten and first grade. So one of the things we know about people who feel like they can't be successful is they believe that's their destiny, and then there's nothing more I can do about it. An example of that was a child that I had, who was 15, 16 years old, who, by all appearances at the high school, this student looked like any other tough kid. He'd learned how to do the swag. He learned how to have the look. Because I was his special education case manager, I knew that his language ability was at about a 5 or a 6-year-old. Other skills were higher, but his ability to really understand spoken word and language was at about 5 or 6 years old in many ways. So he had a really good knack for looking like everybody else, but he really didn't understand a lot. He got through a lot of his coursework with a lot of supports from special ed. He was in a biology class with supports, but it still was extremely difficult for him. One day, the office, special ed office, gets a phone call. And there's a panicked voice on the other side calling the special ed office. You got to come get him. He's literally climbing the cabinets. He's climbing the cabinets. You've got to get him. You know, this isn't acceptable. We're having a test. And he's got to get out of here. You remove him. The child was removed from the classroom, and actually, after a meeting was held, and he wasn't allowed back in. What was he doing? He was avoiding the test. Would you say that there was no better way to get out of that test than to climb the cabinets? Socially acceptable, and for him it was. He was a clown. Everybody was like, look at him, you know. This was something that for him, where he was at in life, this wasn't a negative for him. All the kids are giving him like, look at him, he's climbing the cabinets, you know. How funny is that? So he got attention, he got out of the test, and the reality was he really couldn't do that test. So in the meeting, they decided to give him an independent study. And guess who was his independent study teacher? Because I taught the sciences. And what was amazing to me is when I took that same coursework and was able to teach him in a way that he learned, he was a perfect student. But I had to do it orally. I had to do it in language he understood, but he still was learning biology. So when we look at, was that child motivated? He was motivated to get out of that room, and he sure did. But somebody else might say he wasn't motivated to be successful. Well, he wasn't being reached in a way that could help him to be successful, and maybe that wasn't the right place for him in that class.